Hello, my name is Renee L. Rose. I'm the founder of Explore Art Talk. With Explore Art, our featured guests, we have meaningful conversations celebrating artistic and cultural diversity that makes our world extraordinary. So sit back, relax, and check out our content. Thank you for joining us today. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Why don't you start off telling me why you moved from Chicago to London?
Okay. Well, wasn't my choice. I was a baby when we moved from Chicago. So my
Oh,
family ended up moving via from Chicago, from Highland Park to Cincinnati, Ohio, and then from Cincinnati, Ohio to Palm Springs, California. And
oh, wow.
a little bit of a detour. And as I think we previously said, I still have family in Chicago. So hello, Chicago. Um, and I ended up, we have an auntie who is British, and I just fell in love with her. And there's something about everything she was talking about England, and I really wanted to go. And I ended up going to university here and fell in love with it and
Oh,
met some English friends, as you do, and went back to the States and moved in with one of those friends who had moved also to Los Angeles. And that's how I ended up meeting my husband, who was in the film industry. So at the time, I was working in the film
oh,
industry, he was working in the film industry, and I was able to work in the UK. And I wanted to come back here. It's home. It's been home for about over 25 years, and
wow.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
Sounds awesome. You don't have an accent either.
You say that. I don't think I do. But when I go home, my family used to say, you have the cutest little accent. And I'm like,
Well, you do have certain words you say that sounds a little bit more British than American.
I think
I've
it's
noticed that.
because there's certain words that you have to say to communicate here. Uh,
Yes.
that, a serviette instead of a napkin. Oh, I would imagine it takes on a bit of a colloquial, local
It
accent.
sounds nice though. I
I
like
just
it.
I
I
just
like the
have
way
my loud
British people sound.
yeah, but I
It's the
just hear my
proper
loud
British.
voice. That's all I hear in my head. Indoor voice, indoor voice.
So tell me how you got into the arts. How did you become an artist?
I was always an artist.
Oh, really?
I popped out and I was art.
Oh, wow. So it happens like that for some people.
It does. I growing up, it was my mom at one point was a single mom and left to her my own devices, and she was working full time.
Mm.
And so I was either out in the desert exploring and looking at the things that were around me, and I would end up drawing. I'm taking my pens, my paper, crayons, whatever I had. And it was just a way of self-motivating, just wanted to do it. I was a big reader. I loved creating things. I had a dollhouse, so I would make all the things from my dollhouse. And I just was naturally
Oh,
drawn to that. I had a lot of amazing women influences. And I don't know if that came out right. My grandmother was very creative, and she did a collage, and which is weird because I didn't realize until many years later after she passed away that when I was going through some of my mom's paintings that she had acquired from my grandmother, that a few of these were collages, and I remember them sitting in her study, and I was in that study all the time, and so
wow.
I look at these collages now, and I think it had some sort of subconscious influence on me, and it's weird how it I recognize that. And my great aunt created jewelry in bronzes and worked with gold, and my mother was an interior designer. So I think having those strong women who supported me in whatever I wanted to do in the creative arts just said go for it and encouraged it
Wow.
and bought me the supplies, bought me the paper and gave me the time to do it and encouraged me to when I was going to school to do those classes. So if you were choosing sport or art, I would choose art. And they said, great.
Oh, wow. So, did you gravitate to a certain type of art or did you try a lot of different genres in art?
I think the ones that stick out a lot for me from the earliest age is nudes and horses.
Oh, wow.
I just, being an animal lover, I think that was, I mean, we had dogs, and like I said, I was out in the desert picking up snails and scorpions and, blue
Oh,
shrimp.
scorpions. Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't pick those up, but you'd look at them.
Yes.
But always around having those animals, and we had a lot of dogs and we had cats, and it just it was nice. Everybody was a very animal oriented.
Yeah.
And at one point when I was at boarding school, I had a horse. So I think
Gonna-
that
Oh, you did it. I was going to ask you that.
Cricket was
Oh,
her
I
name, and
love horses.
I do too.
Oh,
I love them. They're
yes.
amazing creatures, absolutely amazing creatures. And yeah, so those were my two strong points that I really gravitated towards. And then as I got older, I think I just tried everything. I was sculpting at one point, and again doing sculpting nudes. And maybe because I had women around and the body was, we were all in bathing suits or naked, and it was natural. Uh,
Yes.
it was
It is
encouraged.
natural. People make it unnatural. It is.
Very yeah.
It's
And I was
beautiful.
encouraged to draw or sculpt whatever I saw, which was in front of
Yeah.
me. I think that's what teachers always said, use your eyes, what do you see? What is in front of you?
Yeah.
Create what you know.
Oh. So when you were in college, did you have a fine arts degree? Did you major in art?
I majored in going out to nightclubs. I I
No.
tried, started. I went for an art degree. I went in. I was trying. I went there, and when I was in London, I ended up going out to nightclubs. We had Limelight. We had Grabowski Gallery. And I feel so bad about this, and I wish my father was alive so I could apologize to him. But he had given me an emergency credit card, and I realized that when I was going out, this club was called Grabowski Gallery, and he thought it was an art store. So I could charge going drinking on the card, and told him I was buying art supplies. So I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You became a great artist. So somehow it turned
It paid
around.
off. It
Well,
paid
he
off,
sees
but
it. No, he's happy. He sees it.
he's happy, hopefully. And so yeah, I was gravitating towards that to finish, but I was here in London. I was enjoying life, and I was just living it. And then I finished my time here, went back to university in Los Angeles, and a
Oh,
friend of mine, my roommate, who was working on commercials, uh, couldn't do the job one day, and she said, "Would you fill in for me?" And I said, "Sure, would love to." And then that was it. I realized I had found my calling at that time, which was working in the film industry
oh,
and getting to
wow.
be creative and working in the art department, be it costume or props, and that was it. And I started as a craft service, so I was doing the food and things like that. But during the time I wasn't needed, I would go and speak to everybody and learn as much as I could, and ended up getting a job in the film industry, working doing costume. So using
Wow,
my
that's
creative ability,
interesting.
it was great. I mean, I was still painting on the side, and I was doing sculpting, but this is what paid the bills, and I loved it. And it was
Wow.
wonderful. It was in LA, so what else were you going to do when you're in LA?
Wow, that's fascinating. So, what did you do? You stopped working in the industry and just became a full-time artist, or did it transition? How
It
did you do that?
transitioned. Yeah, it went. A friend of mine was working for Fox TV and
Mhm.
saw my potential. And his name's John Roberts, a lovely, lovely guy. And he said, "Why don't you come and work for me?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'd love to do it." Because at that point,
Wow.
working on B films, you're always looking for your next job. It was 12, 14-hour days, and you weren't making a lot of money. And it was actually getting tiring. So I thought, ooh, 9 to 5 job on a desk, in an office building, knowing where I was going to be every day sounded really appealing. And he worked in the arts in the creative department. So we were doing the first web designs, I guess, and first gamings for Fox. So it was Fox Web and doing children's games, which was right up my alley. So being creative,
Wow.
working on these computer games, and yeah, and I really, really enjoyed it. And it was just as it was in the 80s, which no, it was 80s later than that. Dating myself. Um, and that's my husband, who was my friend at the time, came back to LA and we started our romance. And he said, "Look, you know, you can transfer to London. You come here; it's much easier." And so I ended up transferring over to London, working in the gaming industry,
Wow.
and it all just segued where I ended up getting pregnant and had our first of three children. And when I went to go back to work, I realized I couldn't do what I was doing full time and have a family. And that's when I decided I was going to start to draw again and start to do something from home. And that just naturally occurred. I was able to balance kids and a bit of a career, and it built up. And thanks
That's
to my husband's
nice.
100% supportive, attitude, and he was amazing, absolutely amazing. Gave me the confidence and the time and the ability to pursue it, and he still does today.
Oh, that's just wonderful that you always are in the arts and were able to make a way and just keep developing and going from phase to phase. That's so
Renee, it's the
awesome.
only thing I knew. I can't do anything else. I don't have the
Don't
brain
say that. You never
capacity.
know.
It's, if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what else I would be capable of doing. So I'm very fortunate that I've ended up in something doing that I love.
Yes.
Who knows where I'd be?
Yes. So later on, you begin to focus on a certain thing. So what was that in your arts?
Uh, suppose I was painting and I was impatient. I wanted instant gratification and I wasn't getting my thoughts across by painting 100%. So I started throwing paper and I started throwing other mixed media things into
Mm.
it, and then finding objects and adding those, and it just a cacophony of everything. I just whatever I could find to get that into it. And I think one of the first big series that I really did was called the A to Z series, or A to Z, and it was the A to Z of swear words, the A to Z of shoes, of games. And it really took me back to my childhood and this nostalgia
Oh.
of that, and to the books that I used to read. And I loved it. And it was great because they worked out to be independent letters in an art way. So you could just focus on the one letter. But when you put it all together, it had a whole story. And
Mhm.
that really brought me to collage, and
Oh, I was wondering how you got into that. Yeah.
never. I mean, I look back now and I was like, oh yeah, I can just see this trail of it and how it transpired. But at the
Mhm.
time, I just wanted to get what was here out to there,
Out there.
and
Yeah.
and it just happened. And then I did a flag series. Um, and I wanted to do 8 to 10 pieces of a series of certain things, something that interests me, something that I didn't know anything about or wanted to explore more. Um, and that's why I would do these specific series. And a gallery owner had said to me, "You're not going to make it commercially if you
Hmm.
jump from thing to thing to thing. You need to be branded, you need to be known for what one thing." And I just thought, I can't do that. I just, that's not me. And he said, "Well, I don't know if you're gonna make it in the world, in the art world in that way." He said, "A client is going to be sitting in the car, driving by at 35 miles an hour. They look past the window, they go, oh, that's that's a Banksy, or that's another artist. You recognize it within those first, that branding of the art." And I had a lot of that with galleries who were saying, you know, you can't put 15 different pieces in. It's weird. It's confusing. It's very confusing. And I was upset about that. I just thought, well, I don't want to conform to you. You need to just look at what I'm going and watch my journey. Anyway,
Totally agree with you.
it was really frustrating and was having a lot of backlash with it, and ended up not going into a lot of galleries because of it. And a few galleries did take me on, and I realized I didn't want to be in a ton of places. I liked being in small, specific galleries that listened and took care,
Yes.
nurtured you as
Yes.
an artist. And it gave me the confidence to end up doing what I'm doing now, which
Good for
is
you. Good for you.
and and now, funny enough, I've ended up concentrating on just the botanicals and the fungi and being in that botanical world. So I kind of ended up doing it, but not being forced to.
Yes.
Uh, so I ended up in this in that branding place anyway.
Yes.
I still like to
But
do,
you naturally flow into that, and that's
yeah.
not how it should be. I That's something I didn't go to art school. I'm an artist, but I love art. But that's the thing I don't like that they do, to say you have to do a certain thing. And I think it's changing. I think younger people definitely do not follow them. They follow their minds, and I'm glad, because it'll mix things up. Because I think you should naturally flow into what your gift is,
Mm,
not being pushed into it. I think
absolutely.
it works better for you.
Well, and I think, we didn't have Photoshop. I didn't have, and I didn't, like I
Oh,
said, I
yeah.
wasn't going to school. I wasn't picking up the technical skills. I wish I had gone back and listened to the teachers on how to do the silk screening, on how to do all the technical, how do you mix oils? Now every time I need to do something, I have to Google it, or I have to
Oh,
ask somebody. And it's, it takes a long time to figure these things to teach yourself. So I would say to anybody, if somebody, a teacher or somebody is willing to teach you a technical a bit of it, take it and learn it.
yeah.
Learn framing, learn how to frame, learn how to do the printing. Because I, thank goodness, have an amazing team that I work with. Harwood King is my printers, and they are made up of these artists who do the most amazing printing of artists' work. Because they're artists themselves,
Oh,
they see, they have
what's the
that
name of them? Harvard King?
Harwood King.
Oh, wow.
Do museum printing, and they've just produced my new series, which is called the Uniques, and it's on 5 layers of perspex. So they've taken my botanicals, which was on one layer, and it was screened from behind. Again, all this technical, which there's no way I would do. I knew what I wanted, and they're like, "We can do this. This is how we're going to do it."
Wow.
And then they said, look, we want to take it a step further. And I said, well, I'm always up for playing and trying to, let's push the boundaries. I think as soon as I get comfortable in something, it's too safe. I don't like to be safe. I want to push it even further. I need to be
We have
uncomfortable.
that in common.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So as soon as they said that, I was like, let's go for it. And so we ended up trying this 5 print perspex, so that you
Oh,
get a depth
wow.
of it. And I'll send you the pictures. They're stunning. What they've
Oh,
done is stunning.
oh, wow.
And it's just a fun way of seeing the art.
Yeah,
So
because I was wondering how you did that, because they look stunning. The pictures that I've seen that are on those layers, that's how they do that.
it depends on which one. So the original ones start out as so I paint my own mushrooms and my own fungi, and then what I will
Oh,
go do is I will get these Victorian artists, botanical artists. So you've got Beatrix Potter, who was an amazing mycologist, unbelievable. Everybody knew her for Peter Rabbit, but she was this mycologist. And there's all these other Victorian women who I think we had talked about previously that weren't allowed to study the sciences. It wasn't for women. They
yeah.
um, they
The
were allowed to study nature. It was
Yeah.
a gentle science that they could study, and they ended
Yeah.
up being the forefront of mycology. They
Yes.
were, Beatrix Potter was the first to, I believe, grow from spores, and one of the Victorians, one of these women dressed as a man and went exploring.
Oh,
So
wow.
they really jumped ahead in that field for some time. So a lot of them are not known. A lot of
Mhm.
them are, and so I encourage those books to come back out, take them, mix them in with my artwork, and
Oh,
create this garden of
yes.
layers. And then I have it created into a deep frame box. So it is layered and it is really deep. And then once it's photographed, that's another angle. But when I go to have it printed, it's printed onto perspex. So there's different, again, pushing the boundaries of those pieces. There are the originals, then there's the perspex pieces, and then you've got the print. So
Oh, wow. So is
always playing.
so is your process, may I ask, is it very expensive to create?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was wondering. Yeah.
I mean, the framing alone, I mean, it's unbelievable when you have a good framer. And again, this is, I wish I'd learned how to do framing, but I can appreciate what they do. And they've been walking me through it, and I get to watch them do it, and the angles and the depth and the wood. And there's, the whole angles of it. But I think framing really makes a difference. I think museum glass
Yes.
really helps.
Especially for what you're doing. Yes.
Yeah. So you've got that. I use museum glass only.
Oh, wow.
Because the amount of people who go like this, they go to touch thinking there's no glass, and then you end up getting these little fingerprints on it because people don't see it, and it distracts. If you've got really bad glass,
Yeah.
there you're not seeing it. So it's framing, it's the printing. Again, high quality printing. The paper.
Yes,
Um,
that's what I was thinking about. Hadn't even thought about the framing, but the printing has to be high quality.
Yeah, very much. And then the paper it's printed on too. And then it's got to last. Also, you think about painting and people using oil paints, and it's beautiful and the thickness, and you've got to treat it and you've got to protect it so it doesn't crack.
Yeah,
And
so
then
it doesn't deteriorate too. The color.
the same thing goes for paper. And I think, for most artists, you've got to protect your work from the elements.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there's all,
Yeah.
and then it's the technical side. I have my technical director, Pete, who did
Wow.
everything for me. I mean, I have some seriously big pieces. I did the A to Z of religion, and it was 26 boxes, and each one had to be mounted onto
Wow.
this piece, the main board. And then we had, it just, all of these elements, when you start adding wood and metal and plastic and everything, it just has to last. And so Pete would make sure it does. And then I have another piece that spins. It's the Zodiac, and it's on this wheel. So, it can get expensive, definitely.
Wow. Wow. So you had mentioned that you sell prints of your
Yes.
work. So how would you sell a print of something like that? You don't, or are there other pieces that you sell prints for?
I I have everything professionally photographed,
Okay.
so that I can A, keep a record of it, and B, so it can be printed. Not everything looks great as a print, but
Yeah.
what I want to be able to do is have it affordable for
Okay.
people.
Okay.
My prints start at about 250 pounds, and
Oh, okay. Yeah,
they
that's
were,
much more.
I've got my giant piece, the Glade, which is 3 meter by 2 meter. That's 25,000 pounds.
Right.
So, the pricing of pieces, I want hopefully everybody to be able to afford art, to be able to enjoy art. And the thing is, you can go into IKEA and you can spend a lot of money on art, and it's a factory run piece.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
the same
I
amount
agree.
of money, you can go on the street and find street artists, and go to street fairs and find these people, these artists who are putting their heart and soul into something,
Exactly.
and
It's
have these
beautiful work.
beautiful work with a
Yeah.
story behind it, and the person that's created it, and their story alone. I love talking to artists about how they got there and what they're doing,
Yeah, me
why,
too.
because it's like poets or musicians. They,
Yes.
it's what that makes them feel.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, so I want people to be able to afford it. If you can't have the original piece, you can have the print.
Yeah, it's accessible.
Yeah.
So the
And
same people print your prints too?
yes.
That's good. That's good. That's why the quality is good.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
And
that is so nice.
yeah, and they're nearby. I'm so lucky. They hate me because I drop in all the time. I'm like, I'm just popping in. But yeah, being able to go into the studio there, and see it on these flatbeds and the silk screen. I mean, they're
Oh, wow.
hand gold leafing, the hand embellishments. A lot of it I do myself, but there's certain pieces that have to be because it has to be done by the heat machine,
Yeah.
technical side of it. But it's wonderful. Like I've said before, it's like for me going to Disneyland when I walk into
Wow.
that
Wow.
studio because there's just so many aspects there to play with.
Well, it explains why the pieces, when they've come out, they're just extraordinary. You've put a lot into it, a lot of thought. You've got these technical people. So, yeah, they're very special, very unique,
Thank
and
you.
definitely a branded by you. I'm
Well, they have.
sure. I'm sure when somebody sees this, oh, yeah, that's definitely a Jana piece, a Jana
Yeah,
Nicole piece. Yes.
it's getting there. Yeah, it's funny. People are going, "Oh, you're the mushroom girl. You like to do the mushroom." And it is. Now, I started with so the botanicals and the mushrooms. It started for me as the mycelium, so the rooting system underground of the
Oh,
mushroom. Mushroom is the fruiting body. So if you have an apple tree and you have the apples, that's the equivalent of a mushroom. That's the above ground. And I love the mycelium, the hyphae, the the journey that they have below. It's don't get me started on that rabbit hole, but it's,
mm.
that's where the mushrooms came in for me. And then I would go out to the woods, and I still go out, and it's a form of meditation. You,
Oh, yes.
I walk out, I go to walk the dog. I'll be back in 40 minutes. My husband looks at me, and goes, "No, I know where you're going," and off we go. And it's 3 hours later, and I realize
Yes.
slowing down. I'm breathing slower. I've
Yeah, where plants are healing.
Yeah,
Mother Earth is healing the energy exchange.
yeah.
I agree with you totally.
But I can sit in one spot for a very long time and looking. I've got you know, my little loop, which, you know,
Oh,
it's like magnifying glass, but it takes everything to macro. So all of a sudden, this world that you're looking at, that fern, that plant, you can go even deeper. You can look at the detail
yes.
on the leaf. You can start to really see what's there, and it
Yes.
pulls you in. And
Yeah.
step back, and life's like that, this big world. And if you take a microscope and you look at everything that's individual, it's amazing what you can become one on one with somebody because of that.
My undergrad is in biology. I changed it to natural sciences to do some ecology classes. So I'm a science freak. So that's why I really enjoy you. I understand what you're talking about.
Fantastic. Well, you
It's
can teach
like,
me something. I want to know your biology bits then.
so I mean, like you said, you really can get into the little micro worlds there are down there when you do that.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
amazing. It's the teeny tiny tiny little bits I use. I'm looking around because I've got studio bits around here, but I've got magnifying glasses so that I can
Mm.
just get into the smallest detail. Most of my work, you don't see half of it. It is all, it's, I know that the layers there. I know that every garden that I create, every woods, forest, as I call them, there's the depth to it, but you don't see it, but I know it's there.
But
Um,
even though I bet you though, either person doesn't focus on the depth, the end product makes it look complete to them.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you're looking at a forest or you're looking at the woods or looking at a section of the grass, it looks complete to them because you put all the little details in there. They wouldn't know that, but I think that's how it comes across for
Oh,
them, for a viewer.
okay.
You see what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
Because if not, if you look at a forest and things are missing, you may say, it looks kind of sparse, but you
Hmm.
may not know what's missing, but you can know that it's sparse. So the audience, the viewer is attracted to all that detail and that completeness that you give them. I would bet.
Come and sell my work, please. Come over. come, come and do it. You speak much better about my work than I do.
I just
Love
love
it.
art and science. So you have a new solo show coming up, right?
I do. It's on Thursday.
Tell
Botanical.
me all about that.
It's uh it's so Enter Gallery in Brighton, which is nearby for us. A wonderful gallery, and
Wow.
I've been with them for many many years. And they've offered me a solo show, and it's all the botanical pieces. So the pieces that Harwood King have produced with myself. we're exhibiting those for the first time there. And then I've got a really big piece of my French piece, The Glade, is coming. So,
Oh,
and then lots of the original smalls. What else I have? Oh, and the record album.
a
That's it.
record album?
Album. There is a wonderful artist, DJ artist called Brian D'Souza, and his DJ name is Anti Flow.
Okay.
Amazing guy.
Whoa.
He is so incredible. His talents are numerous. He not only is a DJ, but he has a company called Swell Studios, and he is working with mushrooms, with fungi, and he works with creates soundtracks, not soundtracks. He creates I guess it is it's another word. Let's say soundtrack. So if people are having a psilocybin experience, medicinal one under therapy, he creates the music for that experience.
Oh,
And
wow. And different tracks. I know exactly what you're saying.
and
Wow.
really, really strong. And what he's doing is this new
Hmm.
album of his is biosonification, which is he plugs in to the mushrooms. So we have, I think, lion's mane, reishi, and oyster mushrooms. And each one in each area gives off a different sound.
Yeah, a different vibration, different
And
sound.
it comes out as music, and he works with it, the
Wow.
mushrooms, to create this music. And so he created this
That's
album.
fascinating.
Yeah, it really was. I highly
How
suggest
did
any.
you connect with him?
So he was asked. So Glastonbury Festival, which is our big music festival in the UK. I guess there nothing compares to it. I think the only thing that's close to it would be Coachella in near Palm Springs in California,
Hmm.
and it's 250,000 people, not including the crew. It's a city among itself, and every for the rest of the year, it's a farm. And Michael Eavis started this a long time ago. His daughter Emily has pretty much taken over, and they have different areas in Glastonbury. And one of the places is called Silver Haze. And Brian was asked to create his music in the first mycelium tent. So they created this structure made out of mycelium, and mycelium can be grown in all kinds of shapes, and they're using it now to replace leather, to replace styrofoam. It's a building tool, absolutely amazing insulation. I mean, it's unbelievable how people are tapping into mycelium. And so they created this tent, and they asked Brian to come and create music for it. And
Mm.
I heard about this and ran down there, and yeah, and that's how we met through that
Oh,
mycelium
wow. So
and
your
bonded together.
exhibition is going to really tap into all those different senses.
Yeah, very much. So we'll have the sight, we'll sound, the smell. And speaking of smell, on the record album, we've created it to have a scratch and sniff,
Which is
and
cool.
which is really cool, and a UV, so it will have a glow in the dark. Because we want that's the whole thing with mushrooms and with being in nature. It's all the senses.
Yes.
The moss is going to be an oaky moss scratch and sniff, and it's the first record to ever have it done.
Wow. You do you remember the Museum of Science and Industry when you were in Chicago?
Yeah.
Your exhibit reminds me of that. That something would be in a museum because it has all the senses and it's
Oh,
educational at the same time
well, that's it. It's I want people to look at the artwork and be drawn in and to learn and to see and to
and
smell,
engage.
to have feelings from it.
Yes.
It's I want all those senses, and to walk away going, I need to look that up. I'd like to explore that.
Oh,
That's
wow.
a bit of that excitement to go and research about mushrooms or mycelium or about those female botanists and mycologists. Just hopefully do what it did for me. I mean, that's how I ended up doing it. It's something that I
Yes.
wanted to learn about, and it
Yeah. That's
fascinates me.
amazing. I like that. I really like that, that you have all the aspects, the other aspects, not just the art part, but you're integrating all the rest of that. It's like an immersive experience.
Well, it's meeting people. I mean, so I ended up creating with my business partner and co-founder Max Moody. who is a macro photographer. He takes the most amazing pictures of mushrooms, and I mean tiny, tiny little things. And if anybody gets a chance
Mm.
to look them up, definitely worth looking. And he and I ended up getting together and we created this All Things Fungi Festival, and it's the first one in the UK, a weekend mushroom festival, and it's about art meets science. So it really brings communities together. It's an educational festival, and it's about, for my side of it, no, if people are afraid of biology or the sciences, any of that, and they're just put off by not wanting to get in, even a bit intimidated, hopefully the artwork can bring you in
I think
and
so. Yes.
you into it between, the color, or, let's go and get some crayons and color in a mushroom. And then
Yes.
you start to learn about these things, and you
Yes.
start to learn and you realize,
It makes it accessible.
yeah, very much
Yeah.
so. I
Yeah.
want young people to come and learn. They're the next, all the next generations need to come and do this. Mushrooms, they say mushrooms can save the world. Humans need to save the world, but mushrooms can help.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I just absolutely love it. So what do you see yourself doing 2 or 3 years from now?
Hopefully, in the jungles of Costa Rica, exploring and drawing mushrooms and taking
Oh, wow.
being in there. I mean, that's I would love to go and travel and be able to be looking at these things, these fungi in nature, and seeing them. I mean, the first time I ever saw an Amanita muscarian, which is the toadstool, the red and white um, mushroom,
Hmm.
it the Smurf one, the Alice in Wonderland one. It's when you
I've
see it
only seen that in pictures, never
exactly.
seen it in real life. It's got to be incredible.
It is, and they just pop up there like little aliens. There's a um Darren LeBaron, who is this great mycologist. His theory is that, or his idea, um, is that they come from asteroids, that they are aliens. They were on an asteroid, and an asteroid
Oh,
came down,
wow.
and everybody has, there's the stoned ape theory. There's all kinds of interesting aspects of it. But I would love to, when you see it for the first time, it just looks fake. It doesn't look of this world. It is unbelievable, and it still takes my breath away. Um,
Yes.
that's the thing. If you look back into culture, all the way back, the first thing with communication was the not the first thing, but the cave drawings. One of
Oh,
the old
yes.
cave drawings in France is of the mushroom, and all the way through culture. All you think about mushrooms have always played a part in it. Alice in Wonderland, Lewis, huge part of it. Disney had it in Fantasia. It's there. It really is. Every generation, every century has had some form of respect for it.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to interview the this is your work is fascinating. This is going to be very interesting to people to
I hope so.
always hear how you do. I can see it, but for you to explain it, it's just fascinating with the process you created. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me ramble on. So,
No, no, I wanted to hear this, and I know that's what people really enjoy about the magazine is hearing what the artists have to say.
well, thank you for giving me a platform to speak, and it's been absolutely wonderful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Okay. Thank you. I will talk to you later.
Thank you, Renee. Take
Okay.
care.
Bye bye.